Oh, man. There he is. One last run down the stairs. What'd you say it is? 17 degrees here today?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
scorcher.
yeah. But I'm just cool. I'm as cool as ice. Here we are again. Last time for the season, but it's been a great season, hasn't it? We've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you had your
I've
Memorial
really
Day.
especially enjoyed the new studio. I did. Kids
Good.
at the beach, tidal pools. We saw a live horseshoe crab.
What?
Usually find those washed up dead, but he was just crawling all around. It was a lot of fun.
Well, we've got the Jubilee weekend, so I've trumped you there about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that word, but we've got the Jubilee weekend coming up, so it's going to be mayhem. Lovely weather, and we're all celebrating our glorious Queen. So I get tearful. That's it. Let's do some news. I don't, by the way.
Season finale, baby.
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those guys that does tearful at the Queen. I'm pleased she's here, but I don't do tearful. AV and sustainability, repair and replace for many years. For many years, recent years, over here in Blighty, people have been talking about there's too much throwaway culture. We're throwing things away. The ashtray's full, buy a new car, right? And it quite rightly so, especially with electronics, it's too much. Make things repairable. Sustainability is becoming a really vital part of our lives now. So how is AV, or is AV, keeping up with it? And to quote, and I remembered this honestly, sustainability is the avoidance of the depletion of natural resources, I'm not looking over there honestly, in order to maintain an ecological balance. Now sustainability is playing a big part in our world at SDVoE at the moment. Isn't that right, Justin?
Sure. With our ASIC chipset, we keep power consumption extremely low, especially compared to any other AV over IP system out there. So if you want to save power and increase reliability with it, which we'll talk about, then go SDVoE. Wow, thanks for the plug opportunity there.
No problem. This is quite a big article, really.
Yeah. Both of them were this week. This one was about how does AV at a large scale, right, focus on sustainability, right? You touched on something interesting, which is repairability, and that's very easy to say, to complain about our throwaway culture. But the reality is, from a design and manufacturing standpoint, we've been driven to want these electronics to be available as cheaply as possible, and that essentially drives the lack of repairability, right? Because it means, well, let's shrink our components. Let's make everything, tiny little surface mount components on micro circuit boards and things. Stuff that's not very easy to repair, right? You can't rewire it like you could rewire your power amplifier 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it leaves us in a weird spot in terms of, well, do you want a Blu-ray player that costs $2,000 and is repairable, or do you want one that costs $300? Make that choice.
Yeah, it's an interesting area. I keep thinking about my grandparents, my granddad, who was an RAF wartime guy. Everything was repairable, nothing got thrown away. And it's weird how in just a few short years. If somebody finds my words, can I have them back, please? Somebody in those few short years, it's just completely changed, and we've gone into this just replace it culture. So I'll be very interested.
Here was the example. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the example cited in the article, I just found it in my notes here. There was a story of a certain integrator, and they'd had a 105-inch flat panel display delivered to the job site, and it got damaged. And so they had to choose whether to get a new one or to repair this. And it said, to repair the 105-inch TV cost 40% more than simply buying a new one.
Crazy.
And that's the reality of it, right? A repairable 105-inch TV would also be 6 inches deep, so that you have access for places to get inside. And is that really what we want? It's of course, what we want is electronics that are inexpensive, that are high performance, that are small and consume low power, and are repairable. But it's a very difficult optimization problem.
It's a really difficult optimization problem because you think large-scale electronics who are kind of depleting the software viability now. So the hardware isn't even going wrong; it's the software that's making it go out of date. So I think this is an uphill struggle. This is a tough one. Anyway, that leads us into the second Please, you should check these news articles out, by the way. They're just below us on the resource list, so please do check them out. Eco-friendly AV planning. Kind of a nice segue, really. 3 things to consider. Again, this is quite a chunky article, but a really good read. And it talks about, well, a bunch of things, but the one that sort of stuck out for me is making sure that equipment is Energy Star certified. That's product selection that you know has been energy efficient. And when I read this and I thought, this is great news. I don't know what it's like in the US or around the world, but I'm sure it's very similar. You know, white goods have been doing this for many years. You know, you buy a refrigerator, a freezer, or whatever it might be, and they've got the energy rating. Hey, it's even happened to houses over here now. But when you think about the electronic white goods for your kitchen, say, I just bought a new fridge freezer, and it's energy rated at E, I think. But the same fridge freezer, the same unit with the same functionality and the same technical functionality, but rated at sort of B, C, B, A, is nearly twice the price. And I think there's got to be some balance here between, sure, encouraging people to buy energy efficient goods, but don't make people pay so much money for it because they won't do it. What do you think?
Well, easy to say, and that's actually something I've got on my list here to talk about with Kim. Is how to get the consumer to think in terms of the total cost of ownership, right? Because ultimately, you're going to end up paying more for the electricity for that fridge freezer over its lifetime.
Yeah.
And so the question is, you know, what over 5 years, over 10 years, which one is cheaper? But A, how do you, which is cheaper, A, and B, how do you get the consumer to think in those terms when you're sitting at the store saying, well, this one's $1,100 and this one's $1,600? How do you get them to see that, oh, okay, over the long term, this is going to save, right? We live in a very give it to me now sort of culture.
Yeah.
So that's tricky.
Maybe we've got to put it to Kim, in which case I'm going to leave you with Kim and I'll see you a little bit later. Have a good interview.
Speaking of segues, thank you, Matt. See you soon.